What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Average American Podcast. We took a week off. I'm your host, Nate the Tate. And, have women lost their fucking minds? Let's talk about it. So, I say that, and I don't mean all women. I think most men would agree it's not all women. I'm married, so obviously I don't think my wife's fucking insane. She has her moments. Don't tell her I said that. However, there's so much, and I know feeds are cultivated to people. I know my feed is cultivated to me, and it feeds me stuff that either makes me angry or causes me to engage, leave comments, likes, whatever. Watch for 30 seconds or longer. But I see so many videos of women complaining about men, and some of them are valid, domestic violence, rape, murder, all that stuff. Men are more inclined to violent crime. Like, that shit is true, but also men are much more aggressive. Testosterone creates a lot of that in you, especially with dudes who can't get laid. That's a tough one. If you can't get laid, you can't, that's gonna fucking suck for you. And, sorry, that was my speaker. That's gonna really create some negative feelings towards women. But I see videos of men who retaliate, and even some women who advocate for men, but it seems like the majority of a modern woman thinks they don't need a man, which is fine. For you to feel that way and not think that you need a man. Excuse me. But the reality is that life is not meant to be lived alone, and I just think that there's nothing more intimate than a personal relationship with a partner. Me and my wife do a lot of stuff together, enjoy a lot of things together. We look forward to seeing each other at the end of the day. I mean, I just don't know that you could say that you feel the same way with your friends. I love hanging out and spending time with friends. I got my fantasy football draft coming up this weekend. Stoked to see my friends. Stoked to do that. It happens once a year. It's always a great time. And I look forward to it. But the reality is, it's not the same. Like, I get sad when I leave, but then I get over it. When my wife is gonna leave for a week, and it's going to be nice in its own way to, like, kind of have a free will to do whatever I want with my time and not really be beholden to anything. But at the same time, by the third day that she's gone, because she leaves in October for a week, I'm going to be like, I'm kind of sad. I wish my wife was home. Like, I wish she was here so we could spend time together. I'm going to be bored. That's just, you just get used to it. That's just what happens. When you love someone and you live together for a really long time and your routine is based around each other. It's just the way it goes. And I just never had that with my friends. I've lived with friends and all that kind of shit. I had and still have a friend of mine. Obviously, we've moved on. But when we were 20, 21, we did everything together. And I'm not going to argue that that wasn't super cool. And, like, when I reminisce on that time, like, it was so fun. And I was, kind of heartbroken when he moved out and went and stayed with this girl and didn't hang out with me as much. And, like, and we talked about it years later and all the shit that he was going through at the time that I didn't know about and he wasn't talking about. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just not the same, right? And I say all of this to say that apparently extends further. I don't have children, but apparently extends further to children. Once you have children, you would kill your spouse for your children. You would hope not to have to do that. And maybe in some cases you should, as we have seen in the news. We're talking about Lindsay Clancy, the lady who's been in the news recently. But let's not forget, shout out Casey Anthony, right? Or Chris Watts. Let's not just keep the women on. We're talking about people who kill their families. Chris Benoit. Like, there's a lot of prominent. That's just 4 prominent names. There's more of them, but obviously Lindsay Clancy is the most recent one. And you have 1,000,000 plus women probably who are psycho fucking delusional individuals who are supporting this woman who came out and said that she murdered her kids. I'm not saying that postpartum depression can't be a really fucked up thing, and women have talked about it and how bad they feel for like wanting to harm their kids and like the psychological ramifications of it and everything. And I understand that stuff is a problem. I'm not minimizing anyone's issues, but it doesn't matter. The difference between a psychopath and someone who just has to deal with some negative thoughts or like you know intrusive ideas, if you will. The difference between someone who experiences um, self-harm OCD and someone who is suicidal is the committing of an act. It's the person who does the fucking thing, right? And so she strangled her kids. And let's be realistic about strangling your kids. Strangling people in general, that is a long process for someone to choke out and die from suffocation through windpipe. It's not like lungs collapsed or something like that. She put her hands around, whatever she used. I don't know the details of the trial, so don't come for me for not knowing exactly what it is. But regardless, this lady's fucking nuts. And we were trying to have sympathy for people who are insane, and I'm just not with that. Sorry for my cat jumping up in the back. I'm just not with that. You don't get to kill kids and then that's okay. I know the government and everything they've done with the Epstein stuff makes it seem like it's okay, but hey, regular people, you can't get away with it. They shouldn't be able to get away with it either, but they just hide it. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But regardless, you have a bunch of women, and I've seen, and who knows what the reality is of all that stuff. Stop it. Go. Who knows what the reality is of all that stuff, or what they're dealing with. But there's been breakups because of this, and I don't blame them, because I would never want to be around someone who says like, oh, she was going through something. We're all going through something. Okay. I experienced, a manic breakdown like a few weeks ago because I believe a new supplement I am implementing, lithium specifically, if anyone's interested, it's kind of helping me regulate my emotions. It's kind of rebalancing some things. It's what it's supposed to do anyway. It's a supplement that's supposed to, chemically is what we need. We're supposed to have it. And that caused me, I think, this is just speculation, but it caused me, I think, to spiral a little bit one day for like an hour and have like really, really bad suicidal ideations. And I don't take medication. I want to make that clear, excuse me. I don't take medication of any kind. Okay, I strictly take vitamins and supplements. All doctor approved. Doctor approved. I don't have a doctor. I don't have health care. But all of them things that are well researched, well backed by individuals, nothing that's created any kind of issues for me. They're just vitamins. Just different kinds of vitamins that support a lot of other shit that you do. But that's to say that everybody has those moments, Some people not as much as others, and we don't all deal with it in the same way. But, I've talked about this before. It's the Bill Burr skit where, just cruising down the road. It's the worst scene we've ever seen. That shit where it's like, I do it, I'm on the news. Lindsay Clancy. I don't do it, I'm just at home struggling. Regular person. So, the fact that a lot of women have come out, raised $1 million for this woman, and it doesn't help that Chris Watts is trying to get married in prison too. That's another super insane thing. And it's all relative to the fact that I think the modern woman has lost her fucking mind. I really do. It's okay to be a whore. It's like, hey, if weird virgins are willing to pay you to show your butthole online, I'm not mad at you. I think it's a little denigrating, and I think you could do better. But in this economy, make your money. Um, I wouldn't want to be with you personally, but that's just me. The reality is, there's a weird third wave feminism that's really fucking with the way society is functioning. And as we continue to put women above men, and that's what we're doing, whether you like it or not, or you want to advocate or say it's not happening, I don't believe that. Especially if you look at the amount of women homeowners, how much men are retreating from the workforce, how much they're retreating from the dating and social pool, the amount of suicides amongst men, homelessness amongst men. Men are by far suffering significantly more than women. And that's not to say that, one gender doesn't have their problems over the other, but it's like, we come back now and we talk about like, oh, women's independence and all this kind of stuff, which is fine. I think free will is of use, and you should have the right to pursue whatever it is you want to pursue. And you talk about like in the 50s, that wasn't a thing. 50s, 60s, 70s, you were beholden to your husband. You couldn't afford to live on your own. A single mom was so tough, or you get beat up, or this, that, or the other, which that stuff did happen. I mean, it was a long time that women were more or less viewed as property before they had autonomy. However, I don't think we should have ever gave you bitches the right to vote. I'll just say that plain. I don't think we should have gave you bitches the right to vote. My wife doesn't vote. She doesn't even care. So it doesn't even apply to her. I'm sure she'd still take offense, to be honest with you, if she was in here. But I'm pretty sure I've stated that before, that I really think we should repeal the 19th Amendment. And because you just vote for stupid shit. And then we see stuff like this in the news, and then we see a bunch of people coming out and being like, oh, this person's sane. Or minor attracted persons. That's another thing of fucking feminism. Come on, bro. How much of this stupid shit are we gonna fucking push on people? Like, every once in a while, you get someone who's reasonable and rational and will say like, no, I don't support that stuff. I may have different views, but those views are only slightly skewed in the difference. The divergence of the path is like traditionalism, like a trad wife. I was gonna say traditionalism, but I don't know if that's even a word. But like a trad wife versus like, me and my wife, who both work, both clean, both cook. I really do the cooking, but whatever, not important. Just a shared relationship, shared partnership type of deal versus a trad wife, where she stays home, he goes to work, that kind of shit. Some people like that and prefer that, and if I could do that for my wife, I would. I'm sure she'd love it. But either way, that's like a rational individual who argue those points. Not you bitches out here who are like advocating that a mental fucking illness is someone just going through some shit. No, that's not what's happening. She murdered her fucking kids. Okay? And then you simp for, I can't remember that guy in prison. My wife just watched a fucking documentary about him. The dude in Florida, he went to prison. He killed 2 women in the same day, and one just because, and like, women were interested in what he had going on. So, I mean, I just don't understand what the fuck we're talking about. All of this dissidents against men and how they're terrible and how they're bad and the patriarchy and all this shit. If we let you bitches in charge, bitches could kill their whole families. And you just be like, oh, it's just a tough time in her life. No. Chair. Now. Suicide Squad. Shoot her up. I don't give a fuck. That bitch probably deserves to die. And I don't want her living on my taxpayer dime either. The only benefit is that she's paralyzed. And she has to live with those decisions because when she tried to kill herself. I don't know. I just feel like there's this weird morality of like, this isn't a gray zone. And you guys can't identify a gray zone. And so everything becomes gray. And so like, you identify with psychopaths. You like the danger, I guess. The intrigue. You can relate to the fact that you're a shitty person. I don't know what it is, but it needs to fucking stop. We need to cut that shit the fuck out. What did Joey say on fucking God damn it, what was that fucking show? In the 90s, Full House? Cut it out. That shit that shit was dumb. But that's what I'm saying. Fucking cut it out. Stop. We need to get back to rationalism. Um and maybe repeal the 19th Amendment. You know, let's put that on the fucking ballot for November. But either way, that's all I got to say. Appreciate anybody who's tuning in, listening. I'll come back at you this following Monday, unless something pops off. You know, I get some intrigue somewhere else. But other than that, you guys have a great week and a great weekend, and I'll see you next time.